Hi everyone, this is Maithili, and I'm reporting once again from Lima, Peru, and the UN climate change talks. Parties are working really hard going into the second week as ministers and high level special envoys arrived this weekend. But just to give you an overview of what happened in the first week, negotiations went pretty slow. So a lot of the news coming out of it was actually related to other things. The World Meteorological Organization said that we were going to have the hottest year on record. And so people are really paying attention to that here in Lima. One other piece of news is that the UN Environment Program, UNEP, came out with a report on the adaptation gaps. And this is a big deal for developing countries. They're always pushing for more adaptation involved in all these agreements. CAN International, the Climate Action Network International, which is one of these umbrella civil society organizations, let the press know that the US, New Zealand, and Australia have all deleted items from their draft texts about what they're willing to do before 2020. Expect this to come up as a big deal for developing countries. They really want developed countries to take a more financial, more emissions cuts, more technology sharing commitments on in the 5 years between when we sign the agreement and when it goes into effect. But despite all this, I'd say Christiana Figueres, the head of the UNFCCC, has been pretty upbeat all week when we've seen her. There's still that sense of optimism that the talks started with, and I think people are really hoping that that will carry into the second week. The ministers, the special envoys, the high-level people have arrived this weekend. On Tuesday is when the high-level panel ministerial start. And that's when the real negotiations, nuts and bolts, will begin. There will be a lot of focus on climate finance, especially after what happened with Japan. Developing countries are definitely going to push for the Green Climate Fund to be fully funded. We're only at about 9.7 billion, which is an inaccurate figure, but we're going to have a more in-depth report on DevEx coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be some heated debates about adaptation versus mitigation. Developing countries are definitely going to push to have adaptation involved in all elements of these texts. It'll be interesting to see what happens because, the UNFCCC has said openly, and UNEP, that the importance of adaptation, but it's going to be really up to the countries to decide what happens. One of the biggest points of this coming week is going to be the intended nationally determined contributions, the INDCs. You'll hear this term thrown around quite a bit. These are basically the country's domestic climate action plans. They're going to be folded into the overall Paris 2015 agreement. The 2 points that people are going to want to talk about are the actual structure of these INDCs, but also a review process. Do you have a review mechanism? The EU and South Africa say, yes, we want to know what other countries are doing. So we want to make sure developing countries address mitigation. We want to make sure developed countries address adaptation. The recent typhoon in the Philippines, which has caused a lot of destruction already, is actually going to be a topic of discussion this week too, because it brings into question the loss and damages portion of the Paris 2015 agreement. Loss and damages is basically when countries are past the point of being able to benefit from adaptation. And so this is a third element on top of adaptation and mitigation. Stay tuned here. I'm going to have reports every day. If you have anything you want to know that I haven't answered yet, please feel free to tweet at DevEx and I'll see what I can find. Thanks.